Are they? As they say, I remember when our folks used to say the good old days. We never thought those good old days would come, but indeed it has arrived here and now. Speaking of arriving, in studio is a man who I have a distinct pleasure as we go into the sunset of the year 2024. I remember early on in the year, and we're very familiar. In fact, I'd say he is a lordship in our friendship. You know it. He says, Mr. Kwach, be upstanding in studio, and you need to invite me one of these days to come through. But he's been so busy trying to keep, and in some quarters would say this, literally, and take this to bank, this country on an even keel. He's somebody I've known, honestly, most of my life. And when I talk about introductions, when it comes to this distinguished gentleman, and I call him distinguished, not because, one, he sits on a bench, or is he a member of parliament, but some would call him a lord, because when you talk about his peerage, I read somewhere that when it comes to Kenyans who have gone to Stato, they call them Ivy Leagues schools. In the UK, there's the Oxbridge, and then there's also the LSE. And if you're somebody who is in finance and you've gone to the London School of Economics, yes, people take their hats off. I would do that, but I'm not having a good hair day. I heard that Mbiu Koinange was one of the first that went through that particular institution. Emilio Stanley Mwai Kibaki, listen to the names I'm speaking of here, went through those hallowed halls. My friend who came after him, and in fact our guest today, actually held, I call it my late brother's hands while he was at that particular institution. Timothy Mburu Kierene also went through that school. But when you talk about names and individuals whom to this day, when it comes to matters finance and economics in this country, he's top of that list. It's because, man, he might be short in stature, but he is a brain box. I'm proud to welcome to studio Sir Simon Karanditu, a.k.a. Wagade. Senior. That's a round of applause for you.
Let me correct. It wasn't Bio Koinange. Actually, it was Uru's dad, Jomo.
Oh, really? Oh, yes.
And he actually wrote, he conceptualized facing Mount Kenya and he was there.
Yes.
And he was inspirational to Mwai, and Mwai is inspirational to me.
Right.
So, yeah. Bio was never there.
Right.
But Bio actually encouraged Kenyatta to go there. But
so it wasn't Kanange.
No.
It was Kenyatta one.
It was Jomo himself.
So that's two presidents.
I'm telling you that if you go to the school,
yes,
we are very proud as Kenyans to go there because
right.
the plaque is full of Kenyans.
Right.
And it's a testimony to the brains that this country has.
I like that.
And it's a great thing to see. It's a great thing to see.
Simon, that said, when you say it's a plaque to Kenyans, before we go back to who is Simon Karanditu, the journey to LSE, is it just for every nationality, or is it because Kenyans stand out that there's a plaque? Is it just unique to Kenyans, this plaque?
We actually have one just for Kenyans.
Wow.
Which we did when Boro died. We created one, which is there.
Right.
We have one for just Africans.
Right.
So there's several, but we have one just for Kenyans, which is exceptional.
Right.
It's exceptional. Yeah.
Now, today is Jamhuri Day, SK. So we want to talk, about the state of our union, and in terms of, you're a man who, when it comes to facts of figures and numbers, you literally have it at the tips of your fingers. And today, are we 61 or 62? Is it 60? Are we talking about the year 1963 or 1964?
There's confusion. It's 61.
Right.
We got independence 63,
yes.
But
Jamhuri.
Probably Jamhuri was 64. The paperwork was not done.
Yes.
Remember, 60 was a very confusing year.
Right.
We had Madaraka Day.
Yes.
Which was done, and then we had Independence Day 63, but real independence was 64. But we recognize 63 as when the handover was done in December.
Right.
And that's correct.
Right.
But It is 61.
But technically the paperwork came in 64.
Technically. I mean, that's when we could even get our proper UN papers and everything else. But in our hearts, 63 was a wrap.
No. But this is CNN breaking news, my friend. Because you own the house when you get the title. It's when you get the paperwork.
Yeah, you remember Kenyatta was still being called Prime Minister and all manner of other things.
Yes.
Because the Queen was still lording over us.
Right.
But I'm very happy I wasn't there.
Right.
But several members of my family were.
Right.
So I know the paperwork because I checked it out.
Right.
And that's what it was.
Right.
The paperwork wasn't ready.
Right.
But it's 60. Let's celebrate 61.
Okay.
And that's what we're talking about. 61 years later,
Indeed.
where are we?
Indeed.
Yeah.
So, listen, the IMF and the World Bank have come out and said, listen, Kenyans, these so-called taxes that are being implemented by your regime as we speak, do not be fooled that these are measures that are being forced upon you by us. Indeed, those are policies and directives that have come up from your own people. So, tafadhali kwa hisani yenu, do not involve us in these manenos. Some say that the best times were had during the third regime of Emilio Stanley Mwai Kibaki. Some say that Uhuru now put us in the fourth regime, we borrowed to the hilt. Right now, we have got people, mandarins, who are saying, my friends, suffer, and the best times of suffering are not yet here. Where are we? The middle class is listening to you. There's SHA, there's SHIF, there's housing levy. We hear NSSF is going up to 6% come January, which is farting distance away. What is the state of our union as we turn 60, 61? We are with Simon Karanditu.
I mean, I'm not a politician.
Yes.
I'm an economist and
yes.
And a businessman. I describe myself as that.
Yes.
And being that, I'm a numbers guy. I mean,
Indeed.
we have to look at the numbers. The numbers are not good.
Right.
The economy is suffering. I mean, we've just been downgraded by the World Bank.
Upgraded, not downgraded.
No, downgraded in terms of growth.
Yes.
We were saying we grow about 5%. They've just downgraded us this week to 4.5.
I saw that.
I don't think anybody in government can say that things are hunky-dory. Nobody in business can say things are hunky-dory. Nobody is positive. We've seen, in my own view as a banker, the poorest foreign direct investment we've ever seen in my lifetime as a banker in Kenya in the last few months. So things are a bit bleak. So we need to look inwardly and ask ourselves, what are we doing wrong? And to be honest, our neighbors are seeing the reverse.
Yes.
So we must ask ourselves, why are we no longer the darling of investment?
Right.
And these are hard questions that we need to answer.
But what answers is you guys as economists coming up with? What is the short answer to that one, SK? Because when you say you've used the word in your history as a banker, and you've got a baby face, but you're a bit long at the tooth, So you were there.
I've stopped smiling now.
You have been in employ for 4 of the 5 regimes. Some say that the second regime was, that was hard. We had foreign currency restrictions, and there were so many. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, that's when, with the appointment of the Dream Team, that was put in place by the powers that be, so that
that's such a long time ago. Let's not talk about that. We can't even go
that far back.
That. I mean, that is something that your audience can't even understand.
Right.
Let's talk about current affairs,
right,
where we are,
yes,
and what we should be doing currently.
Right.
We are clearly out of touch with what's going on. And we need to ask ourselves,
yes,
what are we doing wrong?
Yes.
There are so many things that I think are wrong from a business perspective. As a business person, I'm very sure I'm speaking for the community as a business person that things are not going right.
Right.
And we need to engage.
Okay, but SK, when you talk about we need to engage, the people that are making policy, drafting these policies, when you look at some of those names, they are people who are held in high regard, for they advise the executive and the political class. Who is not engaging them? Or if they're being engaged, why are they going in this particular direction, in your opinion? You know the mandarins I'm talking about, the so-called economic advisors.
That's a very difficult question.
Yes.
Because I've not had the misfortune of engaging. So I can't speak out of 10.
Yeah.
But I think there's clearly a lack of engagement. There's a disconnect. They are implementing a lot of policies in very many sectors which are not agreeing with businessmen. And I'm sure I'm speaking for every business sector here. And that is very disturbing. So we need to look back and ask ourselves as Kenyans, what are we doing here? You know? We used to be the darling economy of this particular part of the world.
Indeed.
Today I'll give you an instance. Look at tea.
Yes.
Rwanda tea is fetching prices 2-3 times ours. Why?
Right.
Why is this happening? This never used to be the case.
Yes.
You know, we've messed up coffee. Just the other day, we are just recovering from academia because now we've got a very good agriculture minister. We're getting our act back, but for a while we lost our way.
Right.
You know, we need to ask ourselves, what are we doing as Kenyans, honestly? And why are we hurting ourselves? We had a good thing going. Why can't we get our groove back on, to be honest?
When did the rain start to beat us? Is it with the tail end of the last regime or the entry of this regime? Do we know?
If you look at economic trends, from an economic standpoint, something happened around devolution, and there was such economic seismic thing that happened there.
Yes.
And we need to look at how we did devolution.
But
and there are many, many theories that we have as businessmen.
Yes.
One of them we have, which is, I think, very, very credible, is to say, look, you cannot suddenly say we had this institution and now we have 47 places we need to deal with.
Right.
Most of them don't even have anything that you're going to talk to about, but all of a sudden there are 47 that they have to deal with.
Right.
That's something that I'm just throwing out of the air, the ether. But it is something that we need to look at again. And we need to go back and ask ourselves, did we get a bit excited about that? How has it affected business? All in well, it's good for politics. But politics and business are very intertwined.
I like that. Yes.
And if we don't understand the damage we're doing in politics, we will not see the damage we're doing in business.
Right.
And I think that's something we need to revisit. And businessmen are asking themselves, what are we doing here, honestly?
Right.
You look at Kenya now, I was the other day, I traveled, and you have counties saying if you cross from one county to another, you need to pay cess.
But
can you imagine America? In America, if you ask a guy to move from Texas to Oklahoma, he has to pay cess in all those states.
Right.
What goods will look like there?
Indeed.
They don't have cess in America.
Exactly.
You move goods freely.
Yes.
In Kenya, we don't have that.
Yes.
We've got these silly laws that are coming up and about.
Inter-county.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, we haven't thought this thing through properly.
Yes.
From a business perspective. It's politics, fine, but think about it in a business perspective. We have not thought it through.
So would devolution be one of those things that let's go back to referendum 12 years in and rethink it or get rid of it, SK?
No, you don't get rid of devolution. It's a good idea. I think it's a very good idea. Everybody should have their own whatevers, but think about what you're doing and make it very cohesive. It's not... We've done it in a very, for lack of a better word, in a very selfish way. We've not thought it through.
Right.
And it was rushed.
Right.
And I recall Kibaki saying when he was leaving, he said, thank God I'm not here when
I remember that.
It's implemented.
Yes.
And poor Uhuru had to do this.
Yes.
And look how it ended up.
Right.
Yeah, and it's sad.
Now, it is very sad. Now, speaking of sadness, because debt is something that is, that's a word that, as the year comes to its end, people talk about debt a lot. And that's now something that the Mwananchi is getting to learn more about, because government tells us, listen, we have more debt, so we need to tax you more so that we can settle that debt. When we read that the IMF has increased debt by 25.6% to 421 billion, 25% from last year. And you look at the figures, our debt is in the trillions. And somebody look at it and say, you mean we only owe the...
We're crossing 11, 12 trillion now.
Yes,
which is
exactly.
Which is a bit... It's not embarrassing. It's actually... it's lethal for this country.
Yeah, hey.
It's lethal. And we should not have reached here. 61 years in independence.
Yes.
We should not be in this level of debt.
Yes.
We should not be begging.
Yes.
People who are 61 years independence with us borrowed our papers, Malaysia, etc. They are far ahead of us.
Yes.
This is not where we should be.
Right.
And I think we have failed ourselves, to be honest, as Kenyans, 61 years later. We have failed. And let us be honest. We should not be beggars at 61 years of age. We should not.
Simon, if we owe the IMS of this world 421 billion, and as you say, our debt is at 12 trillion, who does the other 11.5 trillion? Who do we owe? Who are these? Because clearly we're trying to pay back that debt. Yeah, that's why Shif and Shah and all of these taxes.
The national debt is public knowledge. It's available.
Yes.
And you can Google it.
Yes.
It is a litany of woes.
Yes.
We have Euro bonds in there and all manner of other things. I don't want to delve into it.
Right.
But it's an embarrassment, and I don't think we should be here, to be honest. And I think at 61 years of age, this is not where we should be.
Okay, now we want to go into a commercial break because we approach the top of the hour. Economist, businessman Simon Karanditu is in the studio. He is advisor to many, including, and by the way, we're fortunate to have him as we celebrate our 61st year. Listen, since independence, he's barely here on a weekly basis. He's out there advising these institutions that we are talking about. I'm talking about these global financial bodies. He's in a seminar or 2 or 3. What questions do you have about the way forward for Kenya? 0719012600 or Spice FM KE. SK, Wagade is in the studio. We're going to get to him in the next hour.
Positive for our planet, profitable for you. Access sustainable.
Regulating, and you know what, speaking of regulating, that is one of the songs that was requested by a guest in studio today. This is when you talk about an economic savant. He is honestly one of those advisors to, let me tell you, like the IMS and the World Banks of this world, and not only on the local level, just talk about on the global level as well. He's somebody who, amongst his the alumni that have crossed the hallowed halls of the London School of Economics, including this distinguished gentleman. We are talking about the third president of this republic, Emilio Stanley Mwai Kibaki, the first president of this here, our republic, Jomo Kenyatta. And as we celebrate Kenya at 61, was it 1963 or 1964? He says we are told, and history tells us the paperwork took a bit of time to sort out. So did 1963 or 1964 that is done?
1963. Yes. 64 we
got the paper.
Got the papers.
Yes.
Title deed.
Title deed, yes. Yeah. Because in 63 it was still God Save the Gracious Queen.
That one.
Simon Karanditu is in the studio. We are talking today, and we're very passionate about this. And the key word is passion. As an economist who, advises these global bodies on policy, and especially in the local context, do we have enough passion? This year has seen a lot of passion expressed. He basically wants to translate it to not only policy, but where are we in terms of direction? SK, karibu sana.
Yeah, mean, you asked me about corruption. There are a few things you need to note that have changed in recent times.
Right.
A couple of years back, I think about 10 years back, I was in Nigeria, and I saw the Abacha family coming forth to the Nigerian government and saying, we'll give X amount of money, and they started
back.
And they started giving back money, but it wasn't enough.
Yes.
And then
wasn't enough, relative to what the late Sani Abacha took, or wasn't enough for the administration, the ESCC of Nigeria at that particular point in time?
It wasn't enough in terms of proportion to their story.
Yes.
So the government of Nigeria pushed back, pushed back for 10 years.
Yes.
And recently, they have set up a scheme with the World Bank, who I've consulted with for the last 15 years. A very, very crazy scheme. And it's a message to all looters in Africa. And I want to send this message to all corrupt African leaders.
Yes.
Where the World Bank has set up a special program for Nigeria where they've frozen assets for the Abacha family and gone to all these places all over Europe and repatriated a lot of money.
Right.
And they've set up a special project just to target this specific family to put money back into Nigeria.
Yes.
And this is just the beginning.
Right.
And I think it's going to happen in many other countries.
Right.
I think Angola will be next.
Right.
You saw what happened to
Dos Santos.
Yeah, Dos Santos family. I think you saw what happened to Patni this week in America and Dubai.
Yes.
It's a wake-up call for corruption all over Africa.
Sorry, our Patni?
Yes.
I'm sorry. So for the
Kamlesh, after all these years, just this week, he was caught up.
Seriously?
Caught up by the European authorities and the Americans.
Right.
They froze all his accounts and travel banned him and took all his assets in Europe and America.
Wow. So now he's restricted to Dubai.
If that, because Dubai also has certain European regulations, so he may have to go find some haven somewhere.
Right.
But he's in a dark place right now.
You know, SK, it's when you talk about the Abacha's family and the Abachas of this world, because when one puts in perspective, you're like, okay, there's no time limits on these things, because Abacha, he passed on, I think it was in 96 or 98. Last decade, last century.
In banking terms, there's no time limit on money laundering.
Bus.
Money laundering is money laundering.
Yes.
It's not like debt. So there's statute of limitations. No, money laundering is money laundering.
Yes.
So they go for you life.
Yes.
Forever.
I like that.
Forever.
I like that.
And there are people in this country, even from Moi time, Kibaki's time, who still have lifetime bans.
Right.
They remain nameless.
Right.
Because they have children.
Right.
And we don't want to give their children stress. But they are known.
Yes.
And they're banned for life, and they can't leave this country. That's the way the world works.
Some people say, when you talk about statute of limitations and corruption, that the big thing with is that because America really involved a lot in this, because it's their currency, it's the US dollar. So that if you want to be corrupt, then do it in rupees, RMB, dirhams. Then that way the powers that be will not catch up with you. Is that indeed the case?
No. There's no money laundering in the world that does not involve dollars. Because dollar is a reserve currency of the world.
Yes.
So you can't
say, let me do it in dirhams.
Yeah, ultimately you get caught up. Because once the numbers get big, it's unavoidable.
Right.
And in a sense, that is what has helped the money launderers to catch people. And that is why all central banks, actually most of them, not all, but most of them are fighting Bitcoin.
Yes.
Because Bitcoin is a dream currency for money laundering.
Yes.
Once you're in there, nobody can find you.
Right.
But ultimately also, I think Bitcoin there'll be a way. People they'll find a way. Blockchain is blockchain, and clever boys will come up. They'll find a way.
Yeah.
Money laundering will never change.
Right.
It is money laundering.
Yes.
Debt will be debt. Crime will be crime.
DJT supports the Bitcoin. Will you think his administration will try and push it along?
They will, but at the end of the day, it's not what people want to trade with on a legitimate basis.
Right.
and it has certain challenges.
Right.
The darkness is good for doing dark things,
Right.
but a lot of legitimate business wants to be legitimate.
Right.
You want to be transparent.
Right.
And especially government to government,
Right.
it's not a good currency to be with government to government when you're being very open.
Okay. Simon, as an advisor to the the World Banks and the IMFs of this world, we were talking about Nigeria and their Abachas, but that economy, and you were saying how this is something that it has been held to standard what the current regime is doing, but economically, we seem to have this impression that their currency is in flux, a good one. The economy, we get the impression it's tanking. What's happening in that scenario?
I wouldn't say it's tanking in the sense that it's going to hell.
Yeah.
It's just the chickens have come home to roost. They've had a lot of restructuring. The Naira had to crash.
Yes.
They've done that. They had to do what we're doing now with our banks.
Yes.
What we're doing now with our banks in terms of raising reserves and saying minimum capital has to be X.
Yes.
And, either merge or disappear. They've done that. So we're going through the same sort of flux issues.
Yes, and you talk about, and I'm just looking for that SK, because you talk about the Naira having to crash. And then I read somewhere that because we were talking about the shilling and it's 126, 130, how that is, I don't know how you guys describe it in finance, whether it is its stability. Is it real, or is it these are mirages? It used to be, it was at the point, I think the lowest it was at was streaking towards 180, 190, was going to TUSOC. Should we start investing in dollars, or it was a report? I'm looking for that one, and there was I don't know what is the Bloombergs of this world, but they were like, that Kenyan currency, it is being supported, but it doesn't look, it's not too kosher. So you guys be sure. Are we good?
I think that was very well explained, even by the government.
Yes.
We're going through a very strange period of drought and so many other economic issues, which are no longer there.
Yes.
The economy is right now, I think, in a very stable position. And stable not in the sense that it's healthy.
Yes.
But it's stable in the sense that, we've got rains, we have food. We're stable. I mean, there's nothing that can shake us.
Yes.
But we don't have growth. And that's why even the currency is very stable. Nobody's importing anything to build. Nobody's building factories.
Yes, yes.
Nobody's importing anything to do anything. So
Yes.
that kind of it's a what I call unhealthy instability.
Yes.
It's almost like stagflation.
Right. I like that.
And it's not a good place to be, in my view. But let's see what the next couple of months look like.
About 20 years ago, I was working in Dar es Salaam, and that was under the regime of Benjamin Kappa. And Zakaya Mrisho Kikwete was just about to check in. And they said, listen, their Vision 2030 is that our economy, by Vision 2030 was a vision of Kibaki. And they said, you know what? By 2035, our economy is going to be bigger than... remember, Nyerere used to say, if you want to, don't go to Europe. If you want Europe, kuja hapa Nairobi, utakuwa sawa, then go back digs. We then had the EAC regional heads of state summit not too long ago, celebrating 25 years since its reformation. And as we were talking earlier, our very own, at that point he was incoming chairman of the EAC, said, you know what, Tanzanians, good job. Your economy is now bigger than ours. How did that happen, SK? And was that just bound to happen? Or is it something that the Tanzanians are doing that clearly we are not? And what is that they're doing? Now, obviously, you've spoken about how devolution is like the rain that is beating us. But these guys were Ujamaa not too long ago, boss. I remember in 2 or 3, I'm like, wow. There's a long way to go. And you wouldn't think that it happened faster than envisioned. They're next door. We hear Kenyan farmers, you spoke about farming. A lot of Kenyans, some Kenyans are now crossing over to the border. They're leasing land there in terms of production. What's going on there, brother?
Like I said at the beginning of this conversation, I think we need to look back at, do we have the right policies to enable business? And quite frankly, as a businessman, I don't think we do. And I can mention sector after sector, from tea to coffee, even to banking, where interest rates are too high. I mean, look at inflation now. It's single digit. Why do we have double digit interest rates? I mean, this is insane.
Right.
You know, but again, we need to have it because the government needs to borrow, and the government needs to borrow to maintain politicians in power. I mean, nothing makes sense here. Nothing makes sense. And, you know, it's very frustrating to be a businessman in this country.
Right.
And this is why we're seeing the largest foreign direct investment leaving this country, not coming in, leaving.
Yes.
And I've told you earlier in this conversation, I've never seen this in my life.
Yes.
Kenya was always the FDI of choice, and now we are not.
Yes.
And we are seeing our neighboring countries and other countries in Africa doing what we're doing. People want to live here because Nairobi is nice, we've got all the nice clubs.
Yes.
But they'll hub here, but they're investing elsewhere.
Yes. Wow.
They're investing elsewhere. They come, they sit here, they can get flights to Rwanda, Tanzania, because we have a nice airport, whatever. Well, you know, and that's it. But we're not what we used to be.
Right.
And it's disturbing when our own political leaders are complimenting other countries and telling us, thank you for overtaking us.
Yes.
That disturbs me greatly.
And so
we lost moral leadership many years ago, but we always had business leadership. Now we've lost both.
Now, but SK, you know, as there's the Gen Zs are sitting wherever they are, listening to you, and literally, it's like, oh my God, this is doomsday. Is about. I mean, I'd honestly envision some people are sat there and they're literally gonna have a movement in their pants. What is... Yesterday we saw Alfred Mutua and the youths were at the airport. Is like, you guys, you know what? Don't go to the global north or whatever it is, or to the Badlands, that is Arabia. Don't go there on a tourist visa if you just intend to go to work. You'd think that would be obvious. But the number of Kenyans who forget even FDI, the number of locals who want to get their passport to piss off.
Edward, we've just come from a phase where we were telling people, about 15 years ago, diaspora guys, telling them, come home.
Exactly.
We're telling them, come home.
Yes.
Now, we have gone to a stage where we're telling them, well, hang on, I've got you jobs somewhere else.
Yes.
Which, obviously, as a German ambassador told us, they don't exist.
Yes.
And, you know, we're sending conflicting messages to our children.
Yes.
And not even conflicting anymore, because we're also messing up the educational system for them. They're not very sure how they're being educated. They don't know what they're doing.
There we go.
You know, even the top-notch degrees which they should have in this country, which is being a doctor.
Right.
Nobody wants to be a doctor today.
Exactly.
Today there was a strike started today by the Nairobi doctors at one of Kenya's most famous hospitals.
Surely.
You know, where diplomats go.
Yes.
They cannot be served today.
Right. This is at the Nairobi hospital?
Yes. I mean, what kind of a message are we sending to the world that, you know, Kenya's premier hospital, you cannot be treated?
Yes.
I think these are very dark days, to be honest. And not just in terms of the doctor side of things.
Right.
Just what are we doing to the educational system?
Yes.
What kind of message are we sending to our children in terms of, do you want to be in Kenya and build Kenya?
Right.
You know, most countries in this world want to maintain their local talent and build it internally. Fine, we're educated, we want to export. But we export because we have a surplus. Do we have a surplus of talent here?
No.
Not at all. Not in my view.
Exactly, yes.
Not in my view.
I agree.
As a businessman, I am always struggling to find good people.
Yes, I like that.
So it is remarkable to hear, you know, people saying that, we're in export mode, and yet we are not bringing up enough people here of top-notch caliber the way we used to.
Yes.
Yeah.
I like that. And that's the perfect example. And when you talk about the economy, and SK, not too long ago, when the people were talking about talent, and our government has said that, look, we are in a cycle where 2 billion shillings is stolen daily. And we wanted to ask, by the way, now you are an economist and you're advisor to the best. Does that include Saturday, Sunday, or is it 5 day a week? Is it a 5 day work week? No, honestly.
Apparently even Saturday was included, but they left out Sunday.
But
It was 6 days a week.
now, you talk about talents. Lawyers are now very busy. Simon Karanditu.
Yeah.
We hear that recurrent expenditure in terms of bloated civil service is over 50% up. But that's
It's higher than that.
It's much higher than that.
Yes.
And it's not even infrastructure development, it's just paying salario and allowances.
That's why it's called recurrent.
Recurrent, right? Thank you for clarifying that. Now, he said he would be His Excellency. He says, listen, we are going to, first of all, these people of the so-called 31 parastatals or governmental bodies that were supposed to be put on e-TIMS, and they were put on notice that you guys, if you don't do it within that period of 2 weeks from when he said it, which was 3 weeks ago, first of all, the heads of those organizations, you are out, Niger. And then it was going to be very punitive. They went to court. Civil society, on their behalf, went to court to stop those, including immigration, which a lot of money passes through there, getting on e-TIMS. Civil servants have also gone to court to change to stop them to stop themselves being retrenched or being retired. Are we not shooting ourselves in the foot? I mean, in terms of all this constant litigation. No, you cannot sack us. You cannot retrench us. We are here.
I can only speak as a Kenyan economist. I think I'm not a politician.
Right.
As a Kenyan economist, I think that's crazy.
Right.
I'm not surprised. I mean, I think we've mismanaged the civil service for a long time.
For a very long time. Yeah.
I think it happened. To be honest, we started with Uhuru's time, and it's just compounded.
Yes.
So we've just delayed handling them well.
Right.
I think Kibaki tried something, and then it didn't quite work,
Right.
and then it's just escalated.
Yes.
That's my view, my personal view.
Yes.
But from an economic standpoint, now if we don't do something,
Yes.
to lose a civil service finishes a country. Because once you cannot service your public,
Bus.
the economy grinds to a halt. And what we have now, if you go to a typical government office,
Yes.
is they're so unhappy. They feel
That is true.
disenfranchised,
Yes.
and the morale is low.
Yes.
So they push back, and the
Yes.
pushback is disservice,
Yes.
rudeness,
Yes.
corruption.
Yes.
To be in a public office now and
Right.
ask for service is a
Right.
very unhappy experience.
Which is true.
Very unhappy experience.
And for the first time ever, we've got pensioners. I remember, my Isaac saying his pension was delayed. And we've got even civil servants. You see counties who are saying there's going to be delays in salaries.
No, I've seen it. I mean,
Remittances,
my
man.
own father,
Yes.
I've seen his pension delayed even as late as 4 months.
Yes.
That's not anything surprising. And that's a sign of dysfunction.
Right.
These things never used to happen.
Yes.
But it is a very early sign
Right.
of how things are going very wrong.
Right.
And we don't right them
Right.
soon.
Right.
These things will escalate and the wheels will fall off. That's my view.
Someone can when we get back, there are shining examples on this continent. We have got the Rwandas of this world, and then you have now got the ear of the populace, the middle class, the ones that are being targeted, the asses. What would you advise and what would you do? We're going to get back to SK after the break. And before we get back, SK, we asked you for a list of songs that had meaning to you. The first one there, of course, we played at the top of the hour was Warren G and Regulate.
Yeah, you have to regulate properly. We're not regulating properly.
When we get back, so Regulate was all in the title, or when that song was coming out, is there a memory, a particular memory that it invokes, bro?
Yeah, there is. I remember when I played that song.
Wow.
I used to play it a lot.
Yes.
When I was in campus, and the thing about Margaret Thatcher and the dumb shit she used to do.
The Iron Lady,
yeah, poll tax and everything. I'm trying to regulate stuff. So anyway, that's much later.
Right. Yeah. And so, what about Coolio's Gangster's Paradise? What does that take you, SK?
That reminds me of when he came to Kenya.
Okay. So it was Tusker Beats of the season.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, and he was brought here by a chap called Pete Morai.
Yes. Yes.
It was very entertaining, actually. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
All right, so we're gonna transport you. That was Carnival Grounds, yeah, bro.
Exactly.
We're gonna take you back.
Good memory.
We're gonna take you back to that era. Next, it's Simon Karanditu. Listen, kama uko na swali, the numbers to dial are 0719012600 or Spice FM KE. The state of our union economically 61 years later, literally to the day.
We're still beggars.
And we're still beggars. In fact, we're retrogressing.
Very sad.
If you could go back to the future, as SK said, devolution was a good thing, but economically, we
could have done better.
We could have done better. We're going to get back to that next. With, Gangster's Paradise. Have you been to a good concert of late, SK?
No.
Please get the microphone there.
No. To be honest, at my age nowadays, that concerts are out of my league.
So
I have Gen Zs in my house. That's their job. I think I've got 5 of them. Last I counted.
Yes,
that's their job. Yes, not mine anymore.
I was thinking about it yesterday. In terms of when do you stop going officially to the disco? Is it when you bump into your kids? Because how
that's
we used
probably a good idea.
Remember how remember when we used to do Kani regularly? When did you stop, boss?
I think when I met my niece.
But
I was just kissing this young child. Said, hey, stop! That's my uncle.
But
I never went back there again, and that was a long time ago. Actually.
Right?
Yeah.
Right.
Actually, I had a tamarind card. I cancelled it.
Get out.
Yeah, it was traumatizing. She was one of my favorite nieces. Very traumatizing.
And this guy was deep throat, a good one.
I thought this normal channel.
Listen, it's all about Transformational Thursday.
I'm a retired altar boy. Especially on radio. But it was a bit deep throat for my taste, so I didn't go back there again.
Hey, we aspire to inspire. Now, today on Transformational Thursday as Kenya, you know what? It was 1963, 1964 is when we got the papers. During that duration between December 12th, 1963 and 1964, late Great Majesty Elizabeth II was still our head of state. So, meet 60, as far as I'm concerned. But that said, to each his own. And speaking of each his own, he's consultant to bodies like the IMF and the World Bank and others. And he is, in terms of matters finance and economics, very few and far between can compare to this Kenyan. Actually, when you talk about a Kenyan ambaye anajivuniwa kuwa Mkenya, he is our guest in studio today. It's Sir Simon Karanditu. And for those of you who know him, by the way, Wagade is actually in the studio. If you've got any swalis, please get on to Spice FM KE or dial that number 0719012600. They say landlocked economies don't do very well. Why are the Ugandans and the Rwandese of this world and the Rwandese doing better than Kenya? What's going on there? What are they doing that's so right that we're so wrong? And Uganda's had this Yoweri Kaguta for the longest time. Is it just the oil, SK?
They haven't even started benefiting
Exactly.
from the oil yet.
Yes.
So oil has not even come. That's not true.
Yes.
Not at all.
Yeah.
I think it started with Rwanda. I think Rwanda's even doing better than Uganda.
Yes.
I think governance is something that we are not really understanding in this country. Good governance.
Yes.
One of the countries I've worked very closely
Yes.
as a World Bank consultant for the last 10 years has been Rwanda. And
Yes.
I can tell you that country has zero tolerance of corruption.
Yes.
There and Ethiopia.
Right.
Those two countries stand out in countries I've worked in Africa.
Yeah.
And I must say, especially under Paul Kagame, they've done exceptionally well. I'll give you an example, especially in the field which I'm an expert at, which is universal access to energy.
Yes.
They targeted to have universal access by 2024. They'll have it by 2027.
Now, let's be clear.
Ours, let's move on.
Yes.
Ours was 2025. We moved to 2030.
Yes.
I think we're moving to 2037. We will not even make it, I can tell you now.
When you say universal access, that means everybody, every home connected with with steamer.
We will have lights.
Wow.
Of some nature.
Yes. Yes. Because I remember...
right now, there are 97.
97%.
Yes. They are only with 3% left. They are 97. I can tell you that for a fact.
Wow. And is it true that like the South Sudan's are still 1-2%? Is it less than 5%?
They're at 3 at best on a sunny day.
So would you say that is because of economies of scale, SK? Because Rwanda's got what? Population of?
They're about 12, 13 million. That's not the issue.
That's not the issue.
It's just governance.
Yes. Wow. 97%.
If you focus.
Yes.
I mean, the way they've done it, it's if we did that in this country,
yes,
I would be somewhere else.
So we were when was it the last mile project? Was that what it was when they launched this one, universal access here?
The last mile project here never took off. That one took off so quickly.
Yes,
we could even apply brakes.
Wow.
It's now got an energy
of its own.
Yeah. And that's just one example.
So ours has been from 2027 to 2035.
That's what we are saying.
But you don't see that happening.
Not at the pace we are moving.
Even with whatever happening in Turkana and all these geothermal projects that are supposedly coming up here in Nakuru, Naivasha. I'm wondering if it's geothermal that they are. Is that what he was launching the other day? Was that an Adani deal? No, it was a DEFCI deal. I don't know.
Well, I think I don't want to mention names. You just mentioned some of the things which are stalling it. So,
yes, indeed. Yeah. Wow.
And I'm just speaking about a sector which I know a lot about.
Yes.
Let's move on. There are other sectors. We can go to tea where we've missed. Yeah, like I said earlier on, Rwanda tea is doing better than Kenyan tea in terms of prices.
Was our auction house, is that what was closed at the cost? Is it, or is it just one particular firm?
You cannot set prices high in the auction and they're high in the market.
Right.
That doesn't make sense. Those are some of the things we're doing.
Yes.
Our regulatory environment for the tea sector doesn't make sense.
Right. So agriculture, we're going bust. Energy, we have problems.
Don't say agriculture.
Yeah, just tea.
Broadly. No. Just mention specific value chains.
Yes.
Specific value chains that don't make sense.
Right.
Where we had strength, we no longer have strength. We had coffee and tea, no longer strong.
Right.
Others we are building up. We built macadamia. We messed it up with price controls. Luckily, we have a new CS who has reversed that.
Right.
It's making some sense. He's rebuilt it.
Right.
Good CS, I must say. But other value chains need to be built up. We need to think outside the box because the world is changing. It's changing its diets, its tastes. We have certain strengths which we can build on.
Yes.
We have been building on that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can I talk to you about? It's now become a big thing. We talk about industry. Are we vaccination? Thoughts of cows? Because in speaking of things getting
as a farmer, I think I'm not a man who uses strong words, but that's ludicrous to me. If I'm not forced to vaccinate my children, I should be forced to vaccinate my cows.
Yes.
That's a start.
Yes.
I'm also very wary of foundations which are given national status or status whatever,
Yes.
telling us how to manage agricultural systems.
Yes.
I'm very wary of foundations which come and tell us in Africa how to manage many things.
Right.
That's something that gravely disturbs me.
Yes.
And yet we have our own local expertise.
Indeed.
We have our Kirghiz, whatever. We have professors in this country.
Yes.
We have educated to the highest level.
Yes.
I've been to the same schools that these fellows you bring here
Yes.
from abroad,
Yes.
who should be allowed to come and speak openly and tell us, is this a good idea or not?
Right. Right.
And I feel very, very upset when the powers that be come and tell us
Yes.
at a very basic level
Yes.
how to manage our livestock.
Right.
They can't even manage our children.
Yes.
And that's just my view.
Right. Now, you spend a lot of time in boardrooms and in seminars.
Unfortunately, I do.
Yes, with a lot of people from the global north. Are they in any way, shape, or form influential in or influencing what is happening to our economy here in Kenya today? In a negative way. Do they always look out for best interest?
No, of course they don't.
Good.
They all come in an agenda. And don't forget, we're always the natives.
Thank you.
And this is Africa.
Yes.
And for us, we've always been a place they either grab,
Yes.
experiment on,
Yes. Yes.
or to be there and exploit.
Right.
I don't think that ever changes. With
Right.
them.
Right.
Of course, we have do-gooders, well-wishers,
Yes.
and all of that.
Yes.
But there's a fundamental, I don't know how to say it. They either look down on us or feel sorry for us or
Yes.
something. There's nobody who feels the way we feel, like
Right.
this is our home, it's in
Yes.
our best interest.
Yes.
Nobody except us can do anything in our best interest except us. And we need to acknowledge that.
Yes.
And we need to stop pandering to them. And that bothers me when I find my own people,
Yes.
my fellow natives,
Yes.
pandering to these people. Let us always look inward,
Yes.
and ask ourselves what is best for us.
Right.
And we're educated enough. We've borrowed enough knowledge and technology from them to understand.
Yes.
It's not our technology. We're borrowing from them.
Right.
But we borrowed it so well. In certain cases, we use it so well, we use it better than them.
Right.
Let us ask ourselves what is best for us
Right.
and work for ourselves.
Right.
And that's my view. And that's how I work.
Right.
Even in my own environment, my consulting business, everything
Yes.
I do,
Yes.
I ask myself what is best for my people, what's
Right.
best for me.
Right.
It's as simple as that.
Right. The Bucks had a vision 2030. I don't know when we've shelved that, have we not?
No, we don't. We haven't.
Oh.
By the way, I love the new energy. I met the chairman the other day, Imagine Zai. I have a very high regard for him. I think he's going to re-energize the place. I think it died somewhere within the political environment. But I think Emmanuel's doing a very sterling job of reviving it. Maybe we need to, like I said, shift the goal a bit to a little bit later. But I think we're re-energized, and it's less politicized. I think it's very focused, and they're rewriting a lot of things, which are encouraging, and they're more in tune with what the economy is doing. I think, yeah, it's no longer about fanciful things and let's do concert, let's do this. No, it's about practical things.
Right.
What's on the ground? What can we build?
Right.
And I'm very encouraged.
And the Bucks was also, he started a lot of infrastructure development, SK. What are the key drivers now as we go into 5 years to 2030? We're getting to 2025. What should we be focusing on? Yes, you have said, in terms of various growth sectors, we cannot be putting barriers, like you say, T and CES, intercounty, and, devolution did certain things. But what should this, going forward, I won't say this regime, but what should we as a country be focusing on, brother?
Look, I'm a passionate believer in one thing.
Right.
Because I'm an employer in many businesses.
Yes.
Human resource.
I like that.
A human resource built on education.
I was good, yeah.
What are we doing in the educational system in this country? We are messing it around. We're changing things, playing around with it, putting jokers here and there. This country we've always been admired as Kenyans. We lost the moral high ground many years ago, like I said.
Yes.
We've lost so many other high grounds.
Yes.
But educational-wise, Kenyans were always sought out in the world.
Yes.
I want to employ a Kenyan. Kenyans are better educated than all our neighbors.
Yes.
Now we're in danger of losing it. Ugandans are creeping up. Rwandans will overtake us in the next 2 years. I promise you they will.
Wow.
Because the educational system is universal.
Yes.
And they're not playing around.
Right.
If we don't get back to our core business, which is education,
You're right.
we are going to lose a competitive edge we've always had, which will be a problem. Even if you look at all the multinational institutions that come to this country, they don't come here because of weather and whatever. They come here because they say things like the receptionist speaks English fluently. Everybody speaks English.
Right.
They love the fact that they communicate.
Yes.
We're very highly educated. We need to maintain an educational edge. And I don't think this government is actually seeing it the way the rest of us who are in the private sector are seeing it. This is our edge. We need to maintain it. We need to grow on it. And we need to push it.
Are we talking about basic education or tertiary upwards?
It is everything. There's nothing like basic education. What's the point of taking a guy to standard 8 and then you don't take him for full university?
Surely.
It's a waste of a resource.
Yes.
If the guy can get to standard 8 or whatever you're going to take him to,
yes,
primary, tertiary, university,
yes,
you're taking him all the way.
Yes.
We're taking these kids all the way.
Right.
That's what we're doing.
Right.
Yeah.
But
you don't take a kid halfway and dump him. That's not education at all.
Some talking heads we are saying that the reason why we have a lot of talking heads is because you have given them you have made them too smart for their own good. What would you say about that? Because when you see people out here on the streets expressing themselves, SK, it's because you have given them education. Have we given
That's
too much?
That's a very myopic way to look at things.
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, you're imagining that you'll be in power for 70 years. You will not.
I like that.
You will not.
I like that.
At some stage, somebody somewhere has to get educated. Some people, you cannot build a nation of morons.
Yes.
People have to get educated. You cannot, if you have a nation of morons, we can name them.
Right.
Just because we host all these embassies, I can't name them, but I would name them now.
Yes.
They're countries we don't want to be party to.
Indeed.
And we don't want to be there.
Yes.
We cannot emigrate there.
Yes.
We don't emulate them, and they're not our benchmarks.
Yes.
We are benchmarking ourselves against the best of the world.
Right.
We always have.
Right.
But of late, we have not been doing that.
That is so true.
Especially in education.
Indeed,
we have
that's
not been doing that.
That's so true.
We're benchmarking ourselves, I don't know, on some crazy things like Grammy Awards. That is not what we want.
Yes.
We benchmark against education.
Yes.
Do you want to be educated in Kenya? Yes.
Yes.
Do you want to be medical tourism in Kenya?
Yes.
This is what we want.
Indeed.
Kenya is best for the best things.
Right.
Medicine, education. Do you want to have a farm in Kenya?
Yes.
Yeah.
When you talk about quality control, they said, did we get ourselves in a situation where we gave too many universities charter? SK?
No, not at all. I mean, India has what? They do 400 universities a year. Not at all. I mean, look, if you educate, again, back to education, if you educate 500 top PhDs, they can't all go to one university.
That is so true.
Let them set up their own.
That is so true.
They'll put a bunch of guys in a room.
Yes.
They'll produce quality papers.
Yes.
They'll be peer reviewed all over the world.
Yes.
Off we go. Another university.
Yes.
That's how universities work.
Simon, there was you mentioned how there's selfishness and greed in terms of our policymakers and implementers. I read that there was a proposal that MPs pay tax on their motogaris. Somehow, and you talk about bills that are passed at 9 o'clock in the evening. The bill that finally has gone for a cent, I don't know if it passed
at 9.
There we go.
Yeah.
That tax
amongst
burden,
other things.
Yes. It's there.
It's there. It's a long list of them. I've not seen them because I was not awake at 9, but I want to check them.
Yes.
With my other fellows who look at these things.
Yes.
But they were passed at a very late hour.
Yes. And so that burden has been passed over to us. We are now in a scenario where, and in fact, I'd said I must get you to clarify this. We had a Dindi Nyoro came out and said, listen, you guys, the youths, forget this focus on employment. Start now focusing on how you can get into, be innovators. Start biasharas. When you talk about the tax implication going into February of next year for an employee, as Amos and I sat here, is it true that we're getting to the 40-50% margin? Or when you talk about the pay-as-you-earns and the shifts and the SHAs and the NSSFs, for the higher margins, is it getting closer to the 50 percentile? Is that true?
For the lower margins, definitely. Yeah, I mean, the less you earn, the less you earn.
Yes.
That's what it is now.
Yes.
It's as simple as that. That's definitely, I mean, I wish you had warned me earlier. I'd have done the back of an envelope conversation.
Yes.
Calculation for you. But
yes.
Definitely, the lower you earn, the lower you earn.
Yes.
And ironically, this government is actually hurting the lower earners than the high earners. And that's just the shift and the shafts and everything else they're putting out there is hurting them. That's a fact. And that's, the maths don't lie.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a fact.
And in terms of, but has it hit 40% for the higher earners, Baba?
No, not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet. It's probably about 38% now.
Okay, so in percentage-wise, it's gone up like 3-4%.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, from 35, yeah.
Okay. Now, Simon, as we get into the tail end of the year that kind of comes down on 2024, we've seen the Gen Zs express themselves. What would be your parting shot for somebody who is looking at 2025 with a lot of trepidation? Number one, if I had $1 million, Bob, what should I do with it? Advice. I've sat you, I've bought you a single malt. We're sitting there at our local, the spot. Gonge. I've got a meter, Kenya shilling. Okay, sorry. 100. I've got 1.3 mic. I've got $10,000. Where do I put it?
Probably in my pocket.
Futsal.
And I'll spend it on us. Go to Mombasa. Just say, maisha ni mbaya.
Is it T-bills? SK. Do I invest in Bitcoin? And if I do, how do I get in? Should I lease a plot and then enter macadamia? I don't know if I'm able to do that with a 1.3 mic. What do I do, honestly?
Well, it's very... The first thing, and so you should be very fast and loose and very careless. As every treasurer in the bank will tell me as soon as I leave the show.
Yes.
Buy T-bills, because obviously interest rates will go down.
Right.
But apart from that, it's... just look for something that gives you a margin.
Yes.
If you know how to sell dengu at 25% that profit margin, do that. Just,
No, but as a farmer, SK, what is it that you're a sure bet?
There are value chains in Kenya which we are not looking at. And I had the privilege of looking at very many of them recently.
Yes.
On behalf of Adona government.
Yes.
In the last 2 months.
Yes.
And we are doing different things in very different value chains.
Right.
Certain value chains are coming back.
Right.
Most of them without government assistance. Cotton is back.
Where? Specifically.
Your village.
I like Kavirondo base.
Yes.
I love it.
It's back.
Okay.
Even fish.
Yes. So when you say, is that Kikomi?
Yeah, no, it's the growing of it.
Okay.
Yeah, the growing of it's back. Because, Kikomi has been importing lint from Tanzania.
Wow.
Now they're getting more lint from local gineries.
Right.
So these things are coming back.
Yes.
No government support. Even the government doesn't know this.
I was going to ask. Yes.
Maybe the county guys know, but the central government, they're not aware of it.
Yes.
So things are reviving on their own.
Right.
And that's why I'm saying devolution is not a bad thing. It's happening on its own. People are taking things into their own hands.
Right. I like that.
That's very encouraging.
Yes. And then outlook, Simon Karanditu, 2025 economically.
The World Bank, like I said, issued a very bleak thing about 4.7%.
I saw that.
I think that's probably spot on.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's a low figure for us because that's way below our population growth.
Yes.
So it's going to be a very difficult year,
Yes.
I think. And I think it'll be compounded by more depressing political environment.
Right.
And again, that will it will hurt us in business because siasa mbaya, maisha
mbaya.
biashara mbaya.
I like that. And as you quote the late great Daniel Toreti Charamoy, so as your parting shot, we've got to get you back, by the way, come 2025. Talk to the youth. You've got 15 seconds.
5 Gen Zs. I mean, all I can tell them is, look, you started well.
Yes.
We have not resolved the issues.
Right.
This country is yours.
Yes.
Some of us are facing our twilight zones.
Indeed.
We're here to support.
Right.
Pressure is right.
Right.
You're pressing the right pressure points.
Yes.
Keep it up.
Simon Karanditu, I want to wish you thank you so very much for making time, my brother. And listen, can we make a date here now from your lips to our ears that at the end of the first quarter of 2025, we shall make a date and not on a public holiday so we can get more interactive and engage you on Transformational Thursday?
I accept.
Simon, I want to play out with 3 of your favorite songs, and I want to know where these songs take you. I'm going to play 2, actually. There's Renee and Angela, I'll Be Good.
I never ram.
Earth, Wind and Fire, and obviously the chosen song is September, but that is your blessed month.
That's my blessed month.
Well, okay. And then Heavy D, Peaceful Journey. So those 2 songs, Renee and Angela, I'll Be Good. Where does that take you, brother? And please don't tell me Ngongi.
No.
Yeah.
It takes me back to campus.
You're right.
And I was my buddies.
Yes.
And I used to play that song when I used to get almost busted. As I said, running at a radio station.
Right.
And Margaret Thatcher's guys were downstairs.
Yes.
Looking for us. And I was a guy called Joshua Mino.
Yes.
And they were looking for us.
Yes.
London School of Economics, they were playing a little present. They're saying anti-poll tax.
Yes.
And I'm telling Joshua, I'll be good.
You were Josh. You were Josh there, by the way. You guys were peers.
Yeah, we were peers.
Yes.
We were there with a couple of us. James Singh,
yes.
A couple of us.
You're right.
Jeroge,
yes.
Korea, yeah, a couple of guys.
I love it. And what about Heavy D, Peaceful Journey, Baba?
Oh, that done. I can't say that on national television.
Okay.
National radio,
All right. So SK, thank you so very much for coming through, my brother. Merry Christmas, happy Jamhuri Day evening. I know we shall collide tomorrow evening so that we can compare notes, by the way. Yeah. I'll see you, Keshu Baba. Thank you so very much for coming through. Aspiring to inspire.
Pleasure.
Financial advisor, economic savant. It is Simon Karanditu. Nashukuru.